Hands together for Mr. Fred S. Barkley.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My topic is the science of slim. Have you ever wondered why, despite all the fat-free food, weight loss programs, and gym memberships, so many of us seem to be getting fatter every day, everywhere? We are bombarded with countless numbers of ads and articles, all telling us how to lose fat. But did you know our bodies already know how? As we eat, our bodies convert our foods into glucose, a simple sugar that travels through our bloodstream. This glucose is the primary food for our cells. Whether it's a muscle cell or brain cell or cell in our heart, they all feed on glucose. As glucose moves through our bloodstream, our pancreas produces a hormone called insulin. Insulin is the gatekeeper of our cells. It opens the doors, allowing glucose to enter and be used for our energy needs. Without it, our cells can't be fed. What if we eat more than we need? Along with our brain cells and muscle cells, we also have fat cells. Our cells never eat more than they need. So, when we have more glucose than our cells can use, the excess amount is stored in our fat cells where it is converted into free fatty acids. Once the glucose is out of the bloodstream with our cells having been fed and the surplus having been stored away in our fat cells, then insulin closes the door to our more energy or glucose and we don't have any food handy. It turns to the fat cells and the free fatty acids stored inside them. The free fatty acids leave our fat cells and go right back into the bloodstream to feed all of our other cells. They don't need insulin to open the cell doors. That is why they are referred to as free fatty acids. This natural process of storing fat when you have too much glucose and burning fat when you don't have enough glucose is how your body was designed to work. And in a perfect world and eating a perfect diet, everything works perfectly. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, and most of us don't even come close to eating a perfect diet. As a result, we don't benefit from this natural process very often. Instead, we suffer by storing too much fat and rarely, if ever, burning any. Let's take a look at the typical breakfast in our imperfect world. When we get up in the morning, the first thing most of us have is a breakfast fairly high in sugar and processed foods. When this kind of food enters our body, it is converted into glucose very quickly and rushes into the bloodstream. The more sugary the food, the faster and higher our blood sugar or glucose level rises. Our pancreas senses the sudden spike in glucose and responds by pumping out a product called insulin, creating an insulin spike to correspond to the fast rising glucose. The insulin does its job and opens the door to our cells. All of our working cells are fed, and all of the excess glucose is stored in our fat cells. Now this process happens fast. Once insulin arrives, the glucose levels in our bloodstream goes back down pretty quickly. However, it takes much longer for insulin to leave our body. So even though the glucose level in our bloodstream comes down fairly quickly, our insulin level remains high, and this can be a significant problem. As long as there is insulin still in our body, we can't access the free fatty acids stored in our fat cells. Remember, the free fatty acids don't need insulin to allow them into the cells, but they do need insulin to be gone before they can leave our fat cells. Our body needs to eat continually, but the free fatty acids can't leave the fat cell. On come the cravings, the irritability, and so we eat. Our glucose level spikes right back up. Our body releases even more insulin. The doors open. The cells are once again fed fat cells. With our insulin level remaining high, we are still not able to release any fatty acids, so as we continue adding to the fat storage, but never taking any out. This cycle continues through lunch, mid-afternoon snacks, dinner, and so on. we literally end up bathing our bodies in insulin all day long and for much of the night. After a while, all of that insulin takes a toll. We age much faster than normal, and many of us develop type 2 diabetes. There is a way to break this cycle. Bio's Life Slim, a natural, simple product that restores our body's natural fat burning process. Instead of the spike in glucose and insulin we typically experience drinking Bio's Life Slim, before a meal or during a meal allows for a more mild release of these two elements. This milder release allows the insulin level to mirror glucose levels and therefore burn out at about the same rate as the glucose. When these two levels drop together, our fat cells are now able to release the free fatty acids, and we enter what we call the fat burning zone, the period of time in which our body burns off excess fat, no more cravings and no more feeling tired. After a couple hours in the fat burning zone, we are ready to have Bio's Life Slim again with our next meal, and we start the cycle again, storing less fat and burning more of what was already stored. So, does Bio's Life Slim really work? You bet. And now, may you please pay even closer attention to my testimony from being stuck and obese to set free and renewed. For reasons I can only say were preventable, but nonetheless progressive, I found myself in a place in early August 2011 where I knew I could not live another day like I was. In less than a year's time, I had let my weight simply skyrocket from about 213 pounds to more than 316. I didn't want to leave my home. I could barely fit into the driver's seat of my car, and just to attempt to take a shower was beginning to be a very challenging experience. I had actually begun to imagine that I would end up like one of those people who had to have their front door removed so that they could leave their house via a stretcher or some other extreme weight-sustaining device. It was at that point that my wife and I simply kneeled down to pray for an answer to this unbelievable dilemma. I had no idea when, how, or by what means God would deliver me. I only knew that I was so stuck, so fat, and so desperate that there was nowhere else for me to turn. Amazingly, about a week later, I received a phone call on Wednesday, August the 17th, late in the evening from a good Christian friend named Desiree Savory. She simply said, "Fred, go online with me. I have something truly remarkable to show you." That phone call and what I saw during that call has truly changed my life. What Desiree showed me were her personal transformational photos from her first month to her third month on a product called Bio's Life Slim. The viewing of these pictures was so amazing because I could literally feel the answer to my prayer being revealed before me like the peeling back of a sticker and underneath seeing that I had won a grand prize. My response to what I had seen was so immediate and so intense that it literally made my wife sit up in bed and say, "I don't know what that is that you are so excited about, but whatever it is, you better do it, and you better do it now." To make a long story short, I was an instant Bio's Life Slim convert even before I drank my first dose. I felt so hopeful, so excited that I knew this was it. I not only got into the business that night, but I literally insisted that Desiree could not meet me that night, that she had to meet me first thing the following morning to give me a box of her Slim until mine came in the mail. I must admit that my desire and desperation for change was so great that even after my first week on Slim, even though I was seeing remarkable improvement, it still was not enough. That following Thursday, I went to my first team meeting where I met Miles and Desiree McKellar. Miles immediately became the second component to my miracle because he could read what I needed like any gifted coach reading a star athlete. He simply said, "Fred, you are doing everything right, except now I'm going to put you on the program with the very same Slim and some added lean complete protein that I guarantee will take you to the next level that you are looking for right now. I just couldn't believe it. Where was God